Hey guys, in today's video, we're going to be talking about frame stiffeners. If you're new here, welcome to the channel, and don't forget to subscribe. So chances are, if you've been looking at upgrades for a Jeep XJ, you have come across frame stiffeners. And you might be asking the question, do you really need them? And the short answer to that question is, it depends. So when Jeep came out with the XJ in 1984, it was the first American off-road vehicle that had a unibody. A unibody is where it's a fully integrated frame and body combined. Now the XJ having a unibody made it easier to manufacture, but not only that, it helps to make the vehicle lighter. Now while it is all one solid design and it is all one unit, it's also designed to flex. The whole body and frame will twist and flex as it needs, depending on what kind of terrain you're going over. Now in its stock form, that's perfectly fine, and it is what it's designed to do. It helps to make a smoother ride. It's just the way that it's designed. But when Jeep originally came up with the concept of the XJ, I do not believe that they thought we would be doing the things that we do to them today. Now if you do a little light off-roading in your XJ and you kind of keep it stock, personally, I wouldn't worry about frame stiffeners. It's just one more thing that you're going to have to invest a lot of work into. And for something that's your daily driver, that's stock, that you take off-roading every once in a while, personally, I don't think that it would be worth it to be adding frame stiffeners. But if you were to off-road all the time, or you're modifying your Jeep in any way, then frame stiffeners are the way to go. The more that unibody frame flexes and tweaks and twists, it's going to find weak points. It might start cracking, welds might start breaking. It's just not designed to take that much abuse constantly all the time, the way that we treat our rigs. Now frame stiffeners welded in will help to keep that flexing to a minimum, as well as beef up the frame some. Not only that, it gives you a nice solid area to mount more fun things to, like bumpers and rock sliders. Not only that, if you plan on doing some long arm kits, or maybe adding a 4-link suspension in the rear, it'll give you a nice place to weld everything solid to, because the original frame is just not designed to carry that kind of load. Now some other added benefits to having frame stiffeners, not only does it give you more solid places to mount things, it reinforces your frame. That way if you get dings, dents, you're driving them over rocks, it's not going to dent the frame as bad as it would if you did not have the stiffeners, because it is adding a lot more strength. And if you do bend that frame, it's going to make it weaker, thinner, and eventually just fail. Now if you are planning on installing some frame stiffeners, I do highly recommend that you do a bunch of research, which I am assuming you're doing by watching this video. Now I do have some good information, but I am not the only information out there, so I would highly recommend you look at all sources for all kinds of information that you can find out there. Now there are a lot of companies that make frame stiffeners. Personally, I just kind of go with the cheap route. Just as long as it's a nice, solid material, I'm perfectly fine with going a cheap route, because it doesn't have to look pretty. It's just welding steel to the frame. Now, depending on who you go with, they might have cleaner cuts, better bend areas. The holes might line up better with the pre-existing holes on the frame. But for the most part, if you go a cheap route, it doesn't matter what it looks like. You're going to weld on it. It's going to be under the Jeep. Nobody's going to be looking at it. Now let's say you plan on keeping your Jeep as stock as possible for as long as possible, and then eventually you're going to start upgrading a little here and there. Well, I would highly recommend, if you do plan on upgrading in the future, to start with frame stiffeners. Now there's a lot of reasons why I say this, but the biggest and most major reason is, if you decide to upgrade your suspension before you do your stiffeners, you're going to end up doing a lot of work twice. My XJ personally, I put on a rough country long arm kit, and all of that's going to have to come off, frame stiffeners welded on, remeasured, mounted, holes drilled, all for a second time, when I've already done all that work. So I would highly recommend, if you are planning on upgrading things in the future and you're gonna want frame stiffeners eventually, start with your frame stiffeners. Now a couple of cons to adding some frame stiffeners is it is going to add extra weight to your rig. If you need your rig to be ultra super light, then frame stiffeners are definitely gonna fight against that. Now another con to adding frame stiffeners would be welding. There is a lot of welding which is perfectly fine if you know how to weld or if you know somebody who can help you with it. But if you have to pay somebody to do all that work for you, it can become extremely costly. So that's pretty much all I have when it comes to pros and cons of frame stiffeners and whether or not you should add them to your rig. Once again, the short answer is, it depends. Tell me what you guys think down in the comment section below. Anyway, if you like this video, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. As always, don't forget to subscribe. You can check me out on Instagram at It's Project Venture, as well as the Tickety Talk at It's Project Venture. Thanks for watching.